Hello and happy Sunday, well, whichever day you're watching this, and it's not actually Sunday here, but we're gonna work with the fact that it's Sunday. Something a little bit different today. I'm not outside because it's miserable and it's about to rain, and also I have the fancy camera gear, hence the mic and the fancy camera, because I'm filming today. We're still going to start with the chicken update just because I have some chicken footage that I just quickly shot, so I'll just splice it in and we'll make this a fancy Sunday musing. The chickens are super excited. They now have a feeder, which means that they can feed themselves. They can open it themselves and it closes automatically, so that avoids pests getting in. That's so that we don't have to get out quite so early in the morning, because I wasn't getting out early enough for the chickens. They were miffed, shall we say, by the fact that their automatic chicken door, which is also cool, that opens, they come out, but then there was no food. So they were pecking around outside, and they forage anyway, so it's not too bad. But about the time I would come out, they would be insistent that at 6:30 in the morning their food should be out and hanging up. So this hopefully should resolve that. So that is my main chicken update. We're still on the lookout for 2 older chickens to join our flock. We have a friend who might have some, but the last plan didn't work out, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens, but I'd like to get them a couple just to keep them company now. Obviously, one of our other chickens passed away a while ago. But that is not what I'm talking to you about today. I mean, I am, because chicken update, but I am going to talk to you about EVs. There's a surprise. No, see, anyone who knows me knows I'm weird. Like, you know, here we go. Here's weird. This is a 10-inch record going into a slot-loading, double-sided record deck from the 1980s. I don't know whether it'll work. I've never tried a 10-inch record in it. That's a super exciting thing to do for me. Let's give it a second. It thinks there's 6 tracks. Suspicious. No, correct. And low start the industrial espionage suite. So that is not what I'm going to talk about today. I am going to talk about EVs, but the reason I'm sat down here with my weird hi-fi and my copy of the industrial espionage suite, which is one of the very few albums I have that is almost certainly YouTube safe, is that I love weird old technology. I love things that are a bit different. This is a slot-loading double-sided record deck. It's next to a first-generation, or underneath a first-generation CD player that you load vertically. They're both completely ridiculous. They're completely unnecessary as well. I have a perfectly good record deck up here, but I wanted one of these because I just wanted one, and they're weird and awesome. I don't really need a CD player. We rip everything and we play it through a digital media player most of the time. It's just when I fancy the experience. And that is one of those things I want to talk to you about, because there are a bunch of weird classic EVs. EVs from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, conversions, custom built things. I, for a long time, was chasing down a Mars 2. I failed to get one, but I really, really wanted a Mars 2. It's a 130-ish mile capable, maybe 150 mile capable EV with 50 kilowatt charging that was built in the late 60s, early 70s. It had weird lead cobalt batteries. It was used as a technology demonstrator by a lot of electric utilities. And it was one of the first vehicles that I saw where I was like, that's a classic that you could really kind of use every day if you wanted to. And I actually tried to get it as a daily driver. Really struggled, completely failed. Epic failure on my part, despite a lot of me doing research on the internet about places I might get one. But there's also things like the commuter car that Ford built in the 60s, in the early 60s, around the fuel crisis. And that also looks so fascinating. I don't know how many of them there were built. And getting one is it's just not happening. And then obviously going right the way back to the beginning, there's the Baker electric vehicles, and some of them are in museums, some of them are out and about still able to work because you can fairly easily replace the lead acid batteries, and the technology in them is so simple, you can keep them going for such a long time. And the question I have for you today, and it's really, do you ever consider getting a classic EV? Is there one that you really would love to add to your collection, whether or not it's a practical vehicle or something that you want? I know that Johnny from Car Pervert, Johnny, from the Late Break Show, he really wants an EV1. I would love to drive an EV1, but it's not a car I really want to own. I just think it's interesting. But he would really like to own one, and I've tried looking for him as well. I think a lot of people who know him have tried to find him one. The best I found was a vehicle in China, which I think there's pretty good odds is still in working order, and well, probably needs new batteries, but it was sent over to China as a technology demonstrator from GM, still in working order, and it has just languished in a parking lot there. At least that's my understanding. But whether you could then get that back, that would be very difficult, and it would be very difficult to track down who actually owns it now. So I think that's one of those difficulties. But if you know of an EV1 for Johnny, I'm sure he would love you to let him know. But if you have something that you really want as a classic car, whether it's not practical or whether it is practical and you want it as a daily driver, what kind of classics would you drive? Do you think that driving classic EVs is something we should be doing, or should we just be moving on to more modern, more practical ones? All those kinds of things that kind of fill my mind when I'm sat in the garage. So let me know what you think. Drop a note in the comments below, and I hope you have a delightful weekend, and we'll see you next week. Keep evolving.